71% of Americans now believe their country is headed towards civil war. Not civil unrest, not political tension, civil war. Here's what should terrify you. In 1859, most Americans thought the same thing was impossible. We're too civilized, they said, too prosperous, too connected. 2 years later, brother was killing brother at Bull Run. Right now, states are openly defying federal law. Half the country believes the other half wants to destroy them. Political violence is becoming normalized. And here's the kicker: we're hitting the same warning signs that experts use to predict civil wars in other countries. But here's what's different. In 1860, Americans were fighting over one issue. Today, we can't agree on basic reality itself. We can't even agree on what happened yesterday, let alone what should happen tomorrow. A recent survey found that 83% of local government leaders believe political polarization is seriously hurting our country. Some experts warn that the United States is now showing key signs that historically point toward major political violence. The unsettling question is, have we been down this road before? Are the echoes of 1865 getting louder in 2025? Welcome back to the channel. Here at Combat Continuum, we look at themes of unrest, war, and combat to consider its impact across communities everywhere. And also, the warfighters themselves. Today we are examining something that's keeping historians awake at night: the disturbing parallels between our current divisions and those that once split this nation in two. We're not here to pick sides. We're here to examine the cold, hard patterns of history and ask, are we seeing the same fault lines that led to America's bloodiest conflict? If you're concerned about where our country is heading, you're not alone. Hit that subscribe button. You won't want to miss what we uncover next. To understand the unease of 2025, we need to rewind to the years before 1865. The America of the mid-19th century was being pulled apart by a tangled web of interconnected crises. First, the core moral divide. At the heart was slavery, a profound moral evil that half the country's economy depended on. When Mississippi seceded, their declaration was chillingly clear. Our position is thoroughly identified with the institution of slavery, the greatest material interest of the world. This wasn't just about economics. It was an unbridgeable moral chasm between an industrializing North and an agricultural South built on enslaved labor. Second, federal versus state authority. The battle cry of states' rights became a rallying point, especially over whether new territories would be slave or free. This was a fundamental fight over the balance of power. Could individual states override federal authority when it suited their interests? Third, economic warfare. The North's growing factories and wage labor system operated on a completely different economic wavelength than the South's cash crop economy. These competing economic systems created conflicting national interests, making compromise nearly impossible. Fourth, competing nationalisms. Perhaps most dangerously, a distinct Southern nationalism began to emerge, a vision of a future separate from the Union. Meanwhile, the North fought primarily to preserve that Union, driven by their own sense of American nationalism. These weren't just political disagreements. They were battle lines drawn in ideas that eventually became battle lines drawn in blood, costing over 600,000 American lives. Fast forward to 2025, the cannons are silent, but the feeling of division is thick in the American air. The parallels, while not identical, are too significant to ignore. Fifth, political polarization at historic highs. The gap between red and blue America feels less like disagreement and more like tribal hatred. We retreat into social media echo chambers that reinforce our biases, making genuine dialogue increasingly rare. Political conversation has moved beyond polite debate to outrage and complete distrust, where each side sees the other not just as wrong, but as a genuine threat to the country's survival. Like the 1860s, we're seeing dangerous economic divisions. The gap between the wealthy elite and struggling working class continues to widen, breeding resentment and hopelessness, when policies seem to benefit the connected few, while ordinary Americans feel left behind. It creates perfect conditions for social unrest, especially in communities devastated by factory closures and economic neglect. Sixth, information warfare 2.0. While the 1860s had partisan newspapers, today's information landscape is a digital Wild West. Social media algorithms designed to maximize engagement, amplify extreme voices, and spread misinformation at lightning speed. As one analyst puts it, Social media has become a threat multiplier, capable of destroying our shared sense of reality and basic agreement on facts. Seventh, institutional collapse. Perhaps most dangerously, trust in our institutions has nosedived. Faith in Congress, the media, even scientific bodies has reached historic lows. When people stop believing in the legitimacy of the very institutions meant to govern and inform them, the foundations of stable society begin to crumble. But here's what's different and potentially more dangerous. In 1860, these tensions built over decades. Today, social media accelerates everything. Outrage that might have simmered for months now explodes in hours. So are these genuine echoes of the 1860s, or just surface similarities? Let's examine the patterns. Eighth, political polarization. Just as the slavery issue created an uncrossable divide, today's cultural battles and partisan identities leave little room for compromise. That us versus them mentality is powerful, whether it was North versus South then, or today's deeply entrenched political tribes. Economic injustice. Different details, same resentment. While the specifics differ vastly from the slave-based Southern economy versus industrial North, the feeling that the economic system is fundamentally rigged against large portions of the population strikes a familiar chord. Then it was about slave labor versus free labor. Today, it's about stagnant wages, job insecurity, and the sense that the system benefits the few at the expense of the many. Ninth, fractured national identity. The Southern states developed a separate identity that justified secession. Today, while not geographically split, we see fractured identities based on political affiliation, cultural values, and competing visions of what America should be. The battle is truly over the soul of America itself. But here's the key question. Is any single issue today as morally absolute as slavery was? Slavery wasn't just a policy disagreement, it was a profound moral evil that an entire regional economy depended on. Today's divisions, while intense, create a more complex web of grievances rather than one clear moral line in the sand. This complexity doesn't make today's divisions less dangerous, but it does change their nature. The clear moral conflict of the 1860s has become a murkier landscape of multiple interconnected frustrations. What do conflict experts say about America's trajectory? Their assessments are sobering. Professor Barbara Walter, who studies how civil wars begin, warns that the United States has moved into very dangerous territory. She points to anacracy, a weakened democracy with some autocratic features, as a key warning sign. Historically, civil wars often aren't started by the most marginalized, but by groups that once held power and now see their status slipping away. However, experts agree that any modern American conflict would look vastly different from 1861 to 1865. Instead of organized armies fighting across clear geographical lines, we'd likely see decentralized insurgencies, scattered violence by militias using guerrilla tactics, possibly including terrorism, targeting civilians and institutions. The divisions today aren't neat and geographical. They cut through states, cities, and families. This makes traditional regional warfare unlikely, but increases the risk of localized violence and social breakdown. Business leaders are taking notice too, with political risks and civil unrest now ranking among top global concerns. The combination of economic inequality, institutional distrust, and rapid information spread creates what analysts call an age of grievance, and America is not immune. If the echoes of 1865 are real, can we learn from history to avoid repeating its darkest chapters? The pre-Civil War period was marked by complete communication breakdown and refusal to compromise on fundamental issues. Leaders and citizens alike entrenched in their positions, demonizing opponents until no common ground remained. The lessons are clear. We must encourage genuine dialogue, even with those we disagree with fundamentally. Taking opposing concerns seriously, rather than dismissing them, is crucial for maintaining social cohesion. Rebuilding institutional trust requires transparency, accountability, and leaders committed to American principles rather than exploiting divisions for political gain. Media literacy has never been more essential. In an age of misinformation and echo chambers, we need better critical thinking skills and diverse information sources. Most importantly, preserving democracy often starts from the ground up through community involvement, peaceful civic engagement, and refusing to accept the unacceptable. The future isn't shaped only by powerful speeches from leaders, It's shaped by the everyday actions and choices of ordinary citizens. So is America 2025 truly echoing 1865. The parallels are real and deeply concerning. Extreme polarization, economic inequality, information warfare, and institutional collapse. These aren't passing problems, they're structural stresses that have historically pushed nations toward crisis. But the differences matter too. We're not facing a single, stark moral divide like slavery. Any potential conflict would likely be more scattered and decentralized than the clear battle lines of the 19th century. The echoes of 1865 serve as a warning, a reminder of how quickly a nation can fracture when divisions are not addressed, but they don't have to be prophecy. The path America takes isn't predetermined. It will be shaped by choices made by leaders, institutions, and most importantly, by us. The question isn't just whether Civil War sentiment is back. It's whether our will to prevent such a disaster, to listen, understand, and rebuild is stronger than our desire to win at any cost. What do you think? Do you see the echoes of 1865 in today's America? Share your thoughts below. This is a conversation we need to be having. And if this analysis made you think, please share it with someone who needs to see it. Until next time, stay informed, stay engaged, and remember, understanding history isn't about predicting the future. It's about making better choices today.